Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Here's the Tea. Today we will be talking about bisexuality and my journey, my experience with that. So stay tuned, hold on to your seats, and first I would like to begin this video by saying this is a topic that I've wanted to talk about for quite some time. I do have a video privated on my channel talking about how I knew I was bisexual, talking about when I came out to myself, and that never got published because I think I was just afraid. I didn't know if I was saying the right things, I didn't know if I was explaining myself well. I'm making this for several reasons. One being, I want this video to be almost like a safe haven for those who are struggling. So you can watch this, you can come to this video and see, yes, I feel similar to what she's feeling. I, for one, came to YouTube when I was at a time of doubt, when I was struggling with my own identity. And really, there's only such a handful of videos talking about sexuality in a way that answers the question as best as it possibly can be answered on how do you know? How did you know that you felt this way? That you were bisexual, that you were gay, that you were whatever. I came to those types of videos at my time of struggle and doubt. I looked up coming out videos, I looked up bisexuality, I looked up gay. I searched everything on YouTube. I watched all those videos before I went to bed. Sure, it is no longer Pride Month, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't stop talking about the LGBTQ plus community. We shouldn't stop talking about being proud of who we are. And I think it's really hard to be vulnerable, especially on a public platform where anyone can watch you. So it's always been difficult for me to put myself out there, but it is something I'm trying to do more of. But recently, a few weeks ago, towards the end of Pride, I came across this social media post. It kind of struck a chord with me. And basically, this post said something along the lines of bisexuality being a trend. And because it was Pride, people were posting pictures of themselves on social media, me being one of them, coming out as bisexual. That post had me thinking about a few things. Bisexuality is not a trend, and we shouldn't act like it is a trend because people are making posts during Pride Month saying that they are bisexual. We should be accepting it. Pride Month is a time to be proud of who you are and not let someone tell you that isn't who you are. It also hurts because bi erasure is such a real thing. And if you don't know what that is, pretty much when someone, a group of people, doubt that bisexuality even exists. And it's hard for people who do not identify themselves as one of the two binaries. And when you fit somewhere along the middle and you feel comfortable in the middle between the two binaries, yet outside people are telling you that's not how you should feel. You aren't that. Where does that leave you? Where does that put you mentally? Now this part leads me into a brief discussion on how I knew I was bisexual. I think for me and with my journey, I was never exposed to bisexuality growing up. I didn't really know what bisexuality was, and I think my first encounter of the term, the concept, the idea of bisexuality was when I actually had a Netflix account and I was watching 90210. I never even actually finished the entire season, but the one girl, don't remember her name, but the one character had a boyfriend. They broke up eventually, and this girl realized she was actually also into girls. And I think at that moment, I began to realize that I started to connect with this character. I think I realized then that love is such a weird concept. Weird in the sense where our hearts have the ability to be so unlimited to all sorts of people. In continuation to my journey of discovering my sexuality, or just to the point where I am now, the most difficult part was doubting yourself and causing bi erasure within yourself internally and emotionally. When you hear people outside talking about you could only be one or the other, well, which is it? You aren't gay enough. All these comments you hear about being bisexual, you question yourself, you doubt yourself, and it's even more difficult when you aren't 100% sure at the time because you're still figuring it out for yourself. So when you hear these comments posed by other people, it makes the struggle even more difficult. Are you sure you're bisexual? Why don't you just like try it out, you know? Like college is the time to experiment, you know? And sure, for some people bisexuality is a stepping stone to coming out as gay or lesbian or whatever. But there is also that handful of people who aren't using bisexuality as a stepping stone and who simply are bisexual. So if you say to me, have you even kissed a girl? I already told you that I was bisexual. Why are you questioning me? I'm telling you how I feel. Am I supposed to change how I feel because you asked this posing question? And before I even told anyone that I was bi or that I was struggling with my sexuality, I'm already doubting myself. I'm already questioning myself. So I don't need an outside voice to question me as well, in addition to my own demons inside my head. So about 3 years ago, I attended Playlist Live. It was my senior year of high school. At Playlist Live, we were able to choose a few different YouTubers, a few different influencers to attend their meet and greet. And one of the people that I chose strategically was Ingrid Nilsson. And I specifically chose her because a year prior to attending Playlist Live, so 4 years ago, she came out as gay. And I knew that she knew the struggle of people figuring out their identity, and I wanted to talk to her and I wanted to hear her speak and maybe in a sense have her help me figure this whole thing out. And so when I was at this meet and greet, she spoke. We were sitting in rows. It was a small room and we were going row by row, person by person, to take a picture and talk to her. When it was my turn, I had the girl next to me take photos because I was by myself. And then this is when the waterworks came. I was repeating in my head in my seat what I was going to say to her, specifically regarding my sexuality. So the moment I opened my mouth, I just completely lost it. And the only words that came out of my mouth was, I've been struggling with my identity recently. I just started losing my mind. I was crying. She had tissue, so she wiped my tears and she hugged me and she said, all you have to do is feel it. And I think every time that I feel bi erasure, whether that's from someone else or myself, with this internal battle, I think of those words because it really is a feeling. If you feel strongly about a person or a group of people or groups of people, then it's valid. So fast forward to my bisexual journey 2 years ago when I was a freshman in college. This was a time when I actually met people who were openly bisexual. Like, they told me that they identified as being bisexual, and that alone made me a little more comfortable. And this was still during my process of figuring it out. I knew I wasn't straight, but what was I? For a short period of time, I didn't want to label myself, but I think not labeling myself also caused me to lose my mind because of the plain, simple idea of just, what are you then? So after that short period, I kind of just said that I was queer. Not to anyone, but to myself. So during the time of winter break freshman year, I was here in my room, in my bedroom, at home, still watching YouTube videos, still trying to figure it out, still getting other people's perspective on how they identify, how they knew they were bisexual, how they knew they were gay. There was this one day during winter break, I watched a video, cried, and then I looked at myself in the mirror. I knew how I felt, but I didn't know how to express it, and I didn't know why my mind wasn't understanding what my heart was obviously getting. My brain just didn't understand these feelings and these emotions. But all of a sudden, and now this isn't something that happens to everyone when they figure something out, it just so happens to have happened to myself. So I looked in the mirror and I just looked at myself and I said out loud, I am bisexual. And I just started to cry. It was just like a light went off and my heart and my mind were finally aligned and they understood each other and weren't confused, and this internal battle suddenly seemed like it was over. This is not something that everyone feels when they have like this revelation of, I finally know who I am and I can stay true to that and I can be my authentic self. That was just the beginning of the process, because going into spring semester freshman year, I did take myself to the counseling center on campus a couple of times. The main reason why I was there was to help figure this out further. But I felt like I wanted more answers and I needed more answers to get a clear vision of who I am. And because this was the end of freshman year and I was kind of getting into final season, plus they were busy, and if you know anything about the counseling center at Temple's campus, it's kind of a mess. I'm sure they're doing their best. There isn't enough counselors to meet the demand of Temple students, especially if you don't have an appointment and you're kind of just doing a walk-in because of just how you're feeling that day. I remember going into my first counseling session, and this was my first time at a therapist or anything. The lady who was sitting there at her desk, she just wanted to know more of how I was feeling, where I was, and why I was there. And I told her I was struggling with my sexual identity, and she saw it in my eyes that, first off, I didn't say it out loud that often, so every time I did, I kind of just like teared up. She noticed that right away, and she's like, why do you feel so hesitant almost? It's just a roller coaster when you are just struggling with something internally for so long. And it kind of sucks that I finally had the courage to go to a therapist, to a counselor at the end of the school year because I wanted more time, I wanted to talk more, I wanted more answers. I went home that summer and I took the summer to just figure it out. I think the following school year, so the beginning of sophomore year, I felt more comfortable with who I was and where I was. Just not many people knew about it. I slowly started opening up to more people, more friends. I'm referring to the beginning of this year, 2018, or shall I say 2018. I wanted to make a resolution to be truly you and to be authentic and to not pretend you're someone else. Your feelings are valid, your thoughts are valid, your sexuality is valid, and you shouldn't let outside voices and outside people deter you from your authentic self. And so I made a promise to myself at the beginning of this calendar year that I'm going to be 100% unshameful of who I am. And I know it took a few months for me to even mention my sexual identity, feel comfortable attending Pride, both Philly and New York, and loving every moment of it and seeing people who are so comfortable in their own skin and happy with who they are and being a part of that in that atmosphere. It's such a heartwarming feeling. I didn't actually plan to cry in this video. I think I'm just gonna leave that with you, all that information I said with you. Take it as you will, use that information to your advantage as you will. I hope this video got you thinking at least a little bit, maybe about the concept of bi-erasure if you weren't aware that was a thing, or just gave you a little bit more insight on me personally. I do want to and I do plan to continue talking about sexuality because I think it's important, and it's important to myself, as you obviously just watched. And yeah, I hope to see you in the next video. Let me know down below what you thought, what kind of videos you want to see myself talk about regarding sexuality, bisexuality. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll catch you all soon.